Well, starting this brand new edition of This Is Exclusive, your destination where we get you the exclusives of the day. Something that no other channel would attempt, where we make a deep dive to find out what's really behind the story. All angles would be covered. Joining us on this broadcast is also our senior executive editor, Abhishek Kapoor. In this edition, we'll get you the latest as far as the dastardly attack that took place in Mohali around 7:45 on Monday evening. What's the link that is really emerging? What's the investigation? Which way is it really headed? Over the next couple of minutes, we'll get you multiple breakings as well as exclusive angles to this entire story. This is a day after the rocket-propelled grenade attack on its Mohali-based intelligence wing headquarters. The Punjab police said it has leads and will solve the case soon. Director General of Police V.K. Baura, after a meeting with the senior officials, told reporters that a projectile had hit the building and the explosive that was used appears to be TNT. The rocket-propelled grenade RPG was fired at the third floor of the highly guarded building in Mohali, Sector 77 on Monday night, and the explosion shattered window panes. No one was injured in the incident. And now on this show, we've got 5 exclusive details on the investigation. Let's begin with the first big breaking that's now coming in with regards to the terror module. This is a Republic Super exclusive. This is with regards to what was the explosive that was used, an RPG 2022. The explosive that was used, the RPG that was used without much training is what we are being told. The terrorists were not very experienced. They were fired from a shorter distance. Let me just bring in my colleague Abhishek just to put this into perspective. Abhishek, we've seen the pictures that have already come into the newsroom. One, it's very clear that this was a Soviet-era weapon that was brought in. That in itself raises more questions, whether at all perhaps this was actually brought in from the neighboring states.
Shravan, you know, what is worrisome is that irrespective of whether this was old or Soviet era, the weapon that has been used has not been used in Punjab for more than 2 decades. And that's something which should be the area of focus for the security agencies. And that's what we are being told, that the concern is that something like this was last seen in Punjab in its terror days in 1980s and 90s, early 90s. And since then, it had vanished. So it seems there is a sinister plan, diabolical plan to put Punjab on fire again. And Khalistani link is already visible. The exact ring or cell, whichever was activated, the agencies would know in a while. In fact, some detentions have already taken place, Shravan. But overall, if you look at it, the pattern over the last couple of months of Khalistani activity increasing in Punjab is worrisome. And the weapon, the explosive, irrespective of its vintage, is something which is being focused upon by the agencies as of now, Shravan.
Well, thank you very much, Abhishek. I'll request you to stay on. Let's also get in my colleague Aishwarya Kapoor, our executive editor, just to put this into details with regards to the investigation that has been carried out so far, Aishwarya. We know that they have been able to identify the suspects. The fact of the matter is that they have been caught on the CCTV footage. They were parked, the car was parked just about barely few meters away from that particular building. What more are you picking up?
Shravan and Abhishek, let's be clear, 6 overground workers have been arrested linked with Rinda. Shravan and Abhishek, the same Rinda whose 4 terror associates were arrested just last week after a tip-off came from central agencies and Punjab police investigating, or the Punjab police vigilance department to the Haryana government in Karnal. So the same Rinda group, the same Rinda who is said to be working from across the border and getting complete assistance from the Pakistani administration and the agencies, is said to be behind it. What we are being told by our sources that 4 mobile numbers have been tracked down, 2 mobile call recordings are there, and all of these 6 individuals who have been detained and are being questioned as we speak, they have very clearly said, according to our sources, their connection with Rinda. Rinda, one of the most wanted terrorists, Khalistani link clearly coming out, as Abhishek was also indicating, Shravan. But the point of question is, as Abhishek was saying, that it doesn't matter how old or how low intensity blast this was. The matter of fact remains that Rinda, who is across the border, can activate these OGWs like that. Four of his terror associates were arrested just last week after Haryana police and after Haryana, Punjab and Delhi police came together. And this week we are seeing 6 detained after an attack on a Punjab police establishment using a low intensity or a high intensity, but an RPG. An RPG has been used in Punjab. Yeah.
Well, in fact, Aishwarya, as far as the RPG is concerned, some more details that we are picking up by speaking to multiple sources. One, this is a fin-stabilized rocket that was essentially used. That's the picture that you saw on our screens just a short while back. Now, this is considered to be a disposable rocket launcher, and as far as the warhead is concerned, this is a single heat warhead that was actually used. Let me just take a quick comment from Abhishek with regards to the RPG, and as Abhishek was pointing out, what is even more surprising is the usage of this weapon in Punjab and the connection that essentially emerges, Abhishek. The connection with perhaps decades back, that when it was actually used during the peak of insurgency. Is this a clear-cut signal of the resurgent Khalistani movement?
Well, yes, Shravan, that's the worrisome part. And I was in fact talking to an officer in the establishment who has been around for a while in one of these agencies. And the aspect of this attack which is under a scanner is exactly this, that the last time something like this was used in Punjab was decades back when the Khalistani separatism and terrorism was at its peak, and they would be using these kind of weapons, the rocket propelled grenades and using launchers to target police vehicles, for example. So if this has been brought back, even if it's old as mentioned by you, this is something which needs to be a matter of concern, and the agencies are actually worried about it. And that's why we are told that this time, from the word go, the NIA has got involved, Shravan. In fact, if you remember, the blast happened at about 7:30 p.m. in the evening yesterday, and within an hour or so, the NIA team from the Chandigarh office from the camp office was there at the spot, and they have gotten involved. In some time, perhaps the NIA would actually be perhaps taking over the case. We don't know as yet, but it's fully involved in the investigation. And also, Shravan, over the last 6 months, all these attacks that have taken place, or blasts that have taken place in Punjab, be it the one in Patiala, be it the one in Ludhiana, and the discovery of explosives that happened in Karnal only last week, with 4 Khalistani terrorists arrested, shows a certain spike in activation of sleeper cells, and that's also an area which the agencies would be looking into.
Well, activation of the sleeper cells happens to be one of the biggest concern at this stage, and especially the fact that Punjab appears, at least at this point in time, the breeding ground for it. More details also now coming in as far as the movement of the RPG is concerned. Amandeep, my colleague, is joining us from Chandigarh. Amandeep, this is the latest that we are getting. The RPG, in fact, was brought into Punjab. There is a suspicion that it could be brought in from the neighboring state. Not really ruling out that this has been largely, predominantly used in Jammu and Kashmir. Possibly it could have been brought in from Jammu and Kashmir. One car has already been identified. The car which basically stopped near the building which I was referring to while speaking to Aishwarya a short while back, and stopped minutes before the attack. Amandeep, just walk us through the details that you are picking up in terms of, one, the movement, how the weapon was brought in. Secondly, as far as these suspects are concerned, 2 of them, the car has been identified. Have you been able to piece together what's really happened just before the attack took place?
Well, Shaban, absolutely. Basically, Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab, they both are very much associated regarding the drugs and weapon smuggling case. Certain cases have been reported where the grenades and the drug has been recovered while smuggling from Jammu and Kashmir to Punjab, or Punjab to Jammu and Kashmir. And this weapon is possibly brought from the Jammu and Kashmir. This is what the primary investigation is revealed. And Shaban, I would like to tell you that many things are happening on the ground as well. You can see the police police team is searching this area, and even they have launched the extensive search on this area, just because, Shravan, this is the area from where the RPG was fired. You can see the small wall of bricks and the big bushes. Behind this, those attackers, those terrorists, were hiding, and from here they have fired the RPG.
Just sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you, because as you speak these images, Amandeep, sorry to interrupt you, because as we understand, the live images that are coming in from the very spot, it appears that the examination is still on. Sources here in the national capital essentially indicating, Amandeep, that there was a possibility of a hideout, essentially, a hideout in that very area, sort of a hideout that was basically used, which would have essentially given the suspects some sort of a cover so that they could carry on with firing the RPG. Can you just take us through some of the details, or which was the area from where perhaps they fired?
Well, absolutely, Shravan, absolutely. Where this police is now standing and searching the area, this was the area where the terrorists were hiding. They spent, Shravan, good amount of time in this area. Earlier, they have parked their car on the road just because around 10 meters away from the road, this is a possible hideout of the terrorists from where the RPG was fired. And you can see, this is the area approaching road and this hideout. You can see the distance is very less, and in fact that's the reason since morning all the investigating agencies have launched the multiple search in this area, trying to find out some evidence that can link to the terrorists, just because this is a very serious and sensitive area of Punjab police. And in fact, from here, when we have just visited the spot, behind this small brick wall, they were hiding behind this. They have taken the hideout of this, and from here they have fired the RPG towards the intelligence office. If my camera person can roll and show you that the target is on the line, the broken window pane, the room that was visible from here, that was the target of the terrorist from where they have fired the RPG. And in fact, that is the reason since morning they are searching this area to try to find out some piece of evidence, if anything left behind. Even before Punjab Police, NIA had also searched this area very extensively. Shravan, the point is that now the Khalistani activists who are sitting in Pakistan and somewhere in Canada, US, or somewhere in UK, they are trying to exploit the network of the gangsters in Punjab, just because the trend of gangsters are escalating like anything. All the youngsters are very much inclined towards the weapons, and even pro-Khalistani activists have given them a direction to enhance the activities. And in fact, that is the reason. If we talk about Harvinder Singh Rinda, the history of Harvinder Singh Rinda, he was a known gangster of Punjab. And you can see the visuals that police officials are here. Mohali SSP is also standing here speaking to the officials.
Let's just stay with the visuals. Let's just stay with the visuals.
This is how.
Right. Amandeep, sorry to interrupt you. We'll stay with the visuals. Well, I'll just take a quick question also from Abhishek, because Abhishek, this has been the larger concern. Let's just trace what's happened over the last 6 to 7 months. 6 to 7 months in Punjab. We're just getting in some more breaking news right now. There have been 3 suspects that have been detained. That's the big breaking news now coming in. 3 suspects that have been detained by the Punjab police in the investigation that has been carried out so far. Earlier in the day, we had also information about the fact that they have been able to identify the mobile phones that were essentially used, dump data that was taken from at least 7,000 mobile phones in that very area, 3 cell phone towers. In fact, staying with these latest visuals that are coming in from the very site where the incident actually took place, where you can see right now Punjab police there. Abhishek, let me just bring you in also, and we'll go back to Amandeep in a short while from now. Staying with this visual, just to trace back what's really happened over the last 6 to 7 months, where we have seen a renewed attempt across the border, sending across arms and ammunition through drones.
Exactly.
Just in the month between January and February, about 50 such arms dropping has actually taken place.
Exactly, Shravan. In fact, if you look at the last instance, that was the busting of the ring in Haryana, in Karnal. The ammunition that was there with those 4 Khalistanis, it came through a drone across the Firozpur border, and that can't happen unless there is the Pakistani deep state supporting with this kind of logistics to these terror cells. Also, another Khalistani imprint. Remember, Shravan, the last bomb blast that happened in Ludhiana, it was in a court. In court premises. Then we have had police station of the Shahid Bhagat Singh Nagar targeted. Then we have had police station of Kalma post in Roopnagar targeted. And now we have the intelligence headquarters itself under target of this RPG attack. So, and this is a very bold attack coming as it does with an RPG launcher. And the fact that it's been 24 hours, the fact that the proper recce would have been done to zero down on that floor where the intelligence chief of Punjab Police sits, I think this is something which is a matter to be investigated by the NIA. Perhaps they are obviously involved already, but whether the Punjab Police would be smart enough, so to say, to let the NIA take the lead on this, that's an important aspect that we have to look into, Shravan.
Well, in fact, we'll come back to on this point as far as the NIA taking over this entire case, given the fact that this is about national security. But we'll just go back quickly to Amandeep, because that very place, something that most networks, Abhishek, they've missed out, is the information about a hideout. And let me just take our viewers through the latest breaking now coming in with regards to the nature of the explosive. That it is a TNT. I'll bring in Abhishek on this matter in a short while from now. NIA has examined the area from where the RPG was fired. The area was more like a hideout, and they fired from the hideout using it as a cover. Amandeep, a quick word from you, and just if you can just quickly take our viewers through that very place once again through the hideout, because that appears to be a key area. That's the reason why we've seen multiple teams going to that very place, trying to examine, looking into the distance from where it was actually fired, because that would essentially give them an idea that whether this was a recce was done in that particular area or not, and how exactly this was carried out, it would become much more clearer with the examination of that place. So, Amandeep, just take us through what's really happening right now, and also the hideout that you were basically referring to.
Well, absolutely, Shravan, absolutely. I will narrate you the entire sequence of the incident. Right now, I'm standing just on the road. I request my camera person to kindly give a distance to me. This is the place where the car was parked, actually, Shravan. Look at the place. This is just on the road. And in fact, this is the point. This is the hideout of the attackers. I'll take through to the hideout also. This is the way they have taken to reach to the hideout, where they have spent good amount of time. And in fact, they waited here so that at least road should be get cleared, and then later on they fired RPG from this very much place. Look at this. This is the hideout, Shravan. This is the hideout. This is the hideout of the attackers. And in fact, from here I can show you through camera that the target is in front of us, the building of Punjab Police Intelligence Headquarters. You can see the damaged room, the damaged office is very much visible from here. And that is the reason. Since morning till evening, NIA, Punjab Police, they all are searching this area extensively. This is the hideout where attackers spend good amount of time. They sit here, they just watch. They have done recce earlier also. They have already decided their escape routes. The car was parked outside the road, and road is just 10 meters from this very much place. And in fact, from here, they have fired the RPG that hit on the corner of the wall, and the window panes were broken. And in fact, it was luckily that no loss of life has reported in this entire incident. Yes, Shravan. Yes.
Well, Amandeep, I'll just request you to stay on. We're getting in some more reactions. Let's listen into the reaction that's come in now from the Punjab Chief Minister.
लगातार काफ़ी अरसे तो पंजाब का माहौल खराब करने ਦੀਆਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੇ ਦੁਸ਼ਮਣਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਰਹਿੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਭਾਈਚਾਰਾ ਉਹ ਇੰਨਾ ਮਜ਼ਬੂਤ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਵਜੂਦ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਇਰਾਦਿਆਂ 'ਚ ਸਫਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੇ। ਕੱਲ ਰਾਤ ਜੋ ਮੋਹਾਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਘਟਨਾ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ, ਮੈਂ ਡੀਜੀਪੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਰੇ ਇੰਟੈਲੀਜੈਂਸ ਦੇ ਅਫਸਰਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਲਈ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਸਾਰਾ डिटेल ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਨਿਕਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਗ੍ਰਿਫਤਾਰੀਆਂ ਕੁਝ ਹੋ ਵੀ ਗਈਆਂ ਕੁਝ ਹੋ ਜਾਣਗੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਜੜਾਂ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਜਾਣਗੇ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਇਹੀ ਬਾਰ-ਬਾਰ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਜਰੀਏ ਕਿ ਜਿਹਨੇ ਵੀ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦਾ ਮਾਹੌਲ ਖਰਾਬ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਉਹ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਊਗਾ ਸਖਤ ਤੋਂ ਸਖਤ ਸਜ਼ਾ ਮਿਲੂਗੀ
We're getting in some more breaking news with regards to the investigation that has been carried out. The latest being the dump data of 7,000 mobile phones have now been collated by the Punjab police. 3 mobile phone towers that have already been surveyed. And not just that, there is a possibility that narco groups that have been involved in weapon sourcing, RPG launcher that was actually used in Jammu and Kashmir but not in Punjab. So there are some interesting details that are emerging at this point in time. But Abhishek, there were contradictory messaging that was actually done. If you remember, around 9:30 or a little later than that, roughly about 10 o'clock last night, there was a press release where they said
first the clashes in Patiala, then discovery of RDX in Taran Taran, and now RPG kind of attack on a police office in Mohali is not a coincidence, but a disturbing and a worrying pattern is emerging. Our Punjab government is clearly proving to be injurious to the security, peace and law and order health of Punjab. It is high time Mr. Bhagwant Mann should start acting like the Chief Minister of Punjab, the Mukh Mantri of Punjab, rather than shedding crocodile tears. Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, who is also the de facto Chief Minister of Punjab, should explain why the law and order of Punjab has got disturbed since the Aam Aadmi Party government has come to power. Why is there a rise in crime? Why is there a rise in murders? Why there is a communal clashes in Patiala? Why RDX is being found in Taran Taran? Why attack on Mohali is happening? So Mr. Kejriwal and Mr. Bhagwant Mann, rather than embarking on political campaigns, should work towards the
मुझे सबसे ज़्यादा आश्चर्य इसलिए होता है कि पंजाब में कुछ हो रहा है तो वहाँ के मुख्यमंत्री का बयान नहीं आता है, दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री का बयान आता है। और स्थिति ये है कि जब से आम आदमी पार्टी पंजाब में आई है, कई ऐसे एग्जाम्पल हो गए जिससे ऐसा लग रहा है कि राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा को भी कई खतरा देने वाली चीज़ें हुई हैं। पीछे जिस प्रकार से खालिस्तान समर्थक लोगों से और स्थानीय पंजाब के लोगों से झड़पें हुई हैं, हिंसा हुई है, वो सारा केस अभी मोर्टार आ जाना ये छोटी बात नहीं है। मैं समझता हूँ ये तभी हो सकता है जब आप ऐसे लोगों के प्रति सिंपैथी रखते हो और उनको पता चल गया हो कि जो आम आदमी पार्टी की सरकार है ये अलगाववादी।
मैं आपके इस बयान पर ऑब्जेक्शन करता हूं कि माइनर ब्लास्ट है, रॉकेट प्रोपेल्ड ग्रेनेड है वो। अगर टेररिस्ट के पास रॉकेट प्रोपेल्ड ग्रेनेड है तो दूर से किसी भी बिल्डिंग को टारगेट कर सकते हैं। और कौन सी बिल्डिंग को टारगेट किया? जो वहाँ की पंजाब की इंटेलिजेंस की बिल्डिंग है, इंटेलिजेंस ऑफिस है वहाँ का, पंजाब पुलिस का, वो उसको अटैक किया। तो ये लगातार वहाँ पर मामला बढ़ रहा है पंजाब में जब से सरकार आई है।